All right, we are live here on the All Access Football NFL Draft Watch Show. It is Saturday, November 15th, 2025, and Saturday means it's the best day of the week because not only do we have a whole docket of college football action, but it's also our weekly NFL Draft Watch Show. I am Ric Serritella from the allaccessfootball.com. We're going to get into some marquee matchups for the NCAA Week 12 affair. We got three great games highlighted for you that we're going to break down, chomp up, talk about the top prospects, draft eligible prospects for the 2026 NFL draft. You never know, we might stick a few future guys in the mix for you guys to be aware of as well. And just a reminder, you can follow along at home over at allaccessfootball.com. Just posted the Draft Insider yesterday featuring some of the games we're going to talk about today. And there are over 100 prospects listed for you to digest, consume, scouting reports, verified measurements, background information, insider intel, projections. We got it all. In fact, we just posted the NFL Draft Bible headquarters. Over 1,000 prospects for you to consume there. We have it broken down by all the Power Four conferences. We've also got the East-West Shrine Bowl watch list tracker. We've got over 24 players invited to the East-West Shrine Bowl. That means the Senior Bowl will be underway, and we'll be on location, boots on the ground coverage at the FCS Combine in January. We got the All-Star Game circuit. We've got the NFL Scouting Combine. Of course, the Pro Day trails. We'll be on it, right? Like white on rice. Nobody brings you the names you need to know first since 2002. It's what we do. Of course, the 2026 NFL Draft Bible comes out in April. Over 500 in-depth scouting reports. We might be closer to 1,000 this year. We'll see where we land come April, but that's included with the NFL Draft Bible All Access Annual Pass. Make sure you get down on that and take advantage of our limited offer here with the value picks. You see them in the background. Subscribe to the allaccessfootball.com Annual Pass. You get a free copy of value picks courtesy of InsideTheLeague.com and our good friend Neil Stratton. And with that being said, it's time for me to introduce my co-host and star of the show. He's a former scout for the Cleveland Browns, St. Louis Rams, of course, cut his teeth back at UCLA. Also an original XFL scout, has spent quite a significant amount of time up in the CFL. Of course, the Grey Cup is tomorrow. He is Russ Lande, a former member of CBS Studio Show, Football GM Scouting Course. I cannot forget that. I must also add Professor Russell Lande joining me each and every Saturday from Chi-Town, from Jersey to Chi-Town and everywhere in between. We got you covered coast to coast, combing the country. Russ, good morning. How are you today?
What's going on, my man? I love you mentioned the professor thing. That's fun. I enjoy that. Teaching 2 classes at Concordia, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, man. Concordia University. Russ Lande could be your professor. He could be your mentor over at the SMWW Football GM and Scouting Course. I know that starts in just 9 days, Russ. And that's always a great thing. And, of course, a lot of the NFL Draft Bible scouting department has come from your Football GM and Scouting Course. And today we're going to try to teach and educate and regulate some names you need to know for the 2026 NFL Draft. We've got 3 great games we're going to break down, including we're going to go a little bit different today. We're going to go dive into the Big 12 with Utah and Baylor. Of course, we got our usual SEC suspects, Texas and Georgia. That's going to have national championship, SEC championship ramifications. And a game I'm excited to dig into is going to be Notre Dame at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh really making a case in the ACC. And I'll tell you what, Pittsburgh with the win, they might have college football playoff aspirations. So we'll get into all those 3 matchups. But we had 2 good games last night, Russ. Let's talk a little bit about the Friday Night Lights. Oregon 42-13. They just romped Minnesota, and a couple of highlights there. You know, Oregon's backfield, I love it. Noah Whittington, who we've talked about a lot, 8 carries, 72 yards, and a touchdown. I love this Jordan Davison, an underclassman. We talked about the future watch. He's really grown significantly in a role in that backfield. Sadiq, the tight end, you know, he's an interesting guy. He had 8 catches for 96 yards yesterday and a touchdown. He's registered 23.5 miles per hour on the catapult, but reports this week indicated that the coaching staff a little bit down on his effort, not matching the intensity of a year ago. We'll talk about what that means for his draft stock. Is he the tight end one? I don't know. But I also wrote up a guy, actually, I think our guy Dom Ambrose wrote him up a couple weeks ago, Malik Benson. This guy's a journeyman wide receiver, started off at Alabama, then went to Florida State, now at Oregon, making a little role for himself. Late day 3, priority free agent guy, just a name you need to know. He's got huge upside. On the defensive side for Oregon, Tatum Tuatoe, 1 sack. Mateo Ugalele, a tackle for loss. Both of those guys kind of in the day 2 range. And for Minnesota, 2 guys I want to highlight: Darius Taylor, 10 carries, 57 yards, very well thought of in the in the scouting community. And then Anthony Smith is somebody I think we both like: long, lengthy, productive. He had another sack last night, Russ, but we must discuss Dante Moore. We mentioned last week there's a very good chance Oregon's going to have an NIL payday waiting for him to return back to Oregon, but he's going to have a tough decision when you're out there going 27 to 30, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, clean ball game, and a romp over. Like, Minnesota has been a formidable defense here. So a very, very impressive performance out of Dante Moore.
Yeah, and especially you mentioned Minnesota. I mean, Coach Fleck there, they've done a good job. They're fundamentally sound. So for Moore to go out there and do that, be so accurate, make key throws in key spots, I think what you saw yesterday, just like I think it was game 2 of the year with Moore, is the talent, there's no question, is there. He can be the guy. The question is, from week to week at this point in his career, you don't know which Dante Moore you're getting. There are times he looks like a top of the draft consideration. There are other times he looks like a guy that's going to struggle with consistency. He is a perfect example of why 1 more year of college would be very beneficial. He would get the experience factor of being there a whole offseason to work on the things he struggled with this year, to improve himself. And one of the things I always tell young guys, especially quarterbacks, is if you are going to be successful in the NFL, the 1 year is not going to make a big difference in terms of your payday as a quarterback. Because if you're a starter, you're going to get paid. And this is a kid that, in my opinion, has starting talent, but right now he has inconsistencies that are too much to me to bank on him definitely being a starter. So why not take another year? He's going to get paid. I'd be surprised if it's under $3 million. Take that $3 million, spend a whole offseason working, get ready for next year, have a year where every game looks like last night. Then he's going to be in the discussion to really be the top quarterback in the class. To me, it's a slam dunk. Stay in school. Now that the NIL money is there, you're not in a rush if you're not a surefire first rounder.
Yeah, and I think that NIL payday could be closer to 10 million because you see some quarterbacks this year making about 5 million, and Phil Knight, he's got a
unlimited
checkbook to write. So, I mean, Dante Moore is setting himself up for a payday, whether that be turning back to school, and he's got a strong relationship with Dan Lanning and the offensive coordinator there. So it's not like he's going to go in the transfer portal.
And he's from Oregon. That's it. Yeah. He's from Oregon. What if Phil Knight says, we're going to sign a 10-year deal because we know you're going to be in the NFL? Do something like Caitlin Clark. Give him like $8 million a year for 10 years. All of a sudden, he can stay another year or 2.
Yeah. Right? Well, he has the eligibility. That's for sure.
And then he can really, 1 more year I think would be so beneficial. So your point is 100% correct. The NIL money is going to be crazy. Why not make yourself the best possible player? Because as we know, once you get in the NFL, there's no more you could be, you might be. You start producing or you're shown the door. And you don't want to be the guy who had a chance to stick around, earn $6 million, $7 to $10 million for 1 more year to get better. Didn't do it. And in 3 years, you're out of the NFL because your inconsistency never improved.
Yeah, we've seen that quite often. And for whatever it's worth, I do think he has an NFL starter skill set, but I do want to see him, and I love his cool as a cucumber demeanor. The rest, the pressure doesn't rattle him at all. So he's got a bright future. I'm just not sure it's the smartest or wisest decision to enter this year. And I think that seems to be the consensus there in Eugene. All right. 1 more other game to get to. Clemson, they come back in the 4th quarter. Late touchdown there from Adam Randall, the running back, who I like this guy. I've always liked those linebacker to running back conversion types. I like my running backs who play linebacker because he's physical. He gains the extra yardage, the tough between the tackles. He had 15 carries for $105 and 2 touchdowns on the night. Good to see Antonio Williams, the wide receiver, getting involved. 7 catches for 52 yards there. Of course, Clemson has a slew of defenders on the NFL draft watch, including Avion Terrell, the brother of A.J. Terrell, a former first-round pick in the NFL in his own right. Terrell had 7 tackles, showing his willingness to stick his nose in the dirt and make some plays in the run. Peter Woods, still probably looking like a top 10 selection. He had 2 tackles last night at the defensive tackle position. TJ Parker, it's been somewhat of a disappointing season. He did have a half a tackle for loss, 3 tackles yesterday. I think scouts are going to see the previous body of work, the athleticism, the size, the measurables. I still think he's first round bound. And then for Louisville, a couple guys, Miller Moss, once a heralded recruit, 19 of 27, 212 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He's thrown a lot of interceptions this year, Russ, so he's probably going to be invited as a priority free agent type after the draft. I am a big fan of Chris Bell. We've spoken about him. He reminds me of a bigger Steve Smith just in terms of play style, 5 catches, 79 receiving yards. And I got to mention my guy, Clev Lubin. He's an underrated edge rusher in this year's draft. He's got a lightning quick first step. He's so explosive off the edge, and he can get to the quarterback. He showed he can close yesterday with another big sack. He's an ascending prospect for the Louisville Cardinals, and Jeff Brom might get one of these head coaching gigs because he's done a phenomenal job just building up the talent there at Louisville. They fall short on this end of the spectrum, but they were ranked pretty good going into this matchup. And Dabo Swinney, I'm not even sure he'll still be in Clemson after this season, Russ.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation in Clemson. I mean, the expectations were so high. A lot of their great players. You mentioned a few of them on defense, and you added in like the quarterback Klubnik. Even though they're very talented, some of them have just not played up to what we expected. Klubnik has not been the guy. A lot of people coming into the season thought this guy could push to be in the discussion to be a first-round pick. I think at this point, that is not going to happen. He has not shown the consistency, the comfort in the pocket. You mentioned the Lubin kid. I think that twitchiness that he shows, that's something you can't coach. That's a rare skill. That's an instinctive, anticipatory skill. Even with guys that maybe don't have a perfect home because of a size, you try to figure out where they fit. There's something about that kid when you watch him. He can, and we know this, we've done this on, if you have the twitch to threaten the edge, all of a sudden it opens up the pass rush game. The guys who don't have the twitch, they got to work it. They got to use their moves to, but if you have the twitch, that tackle's got to jump out, and all of a sudden you have inside outside, and life becomes easier. So he's the guy I think there's something there where he's going to probably have a chance to go higher in the draft than some other players who might fit the measurable in terms of height, in terms of maybe college production more, because I think people are going to see that twitch and say, ooh, that's something we can work with. We can put him in unique positions. So he's the guy I think people got to keep an eye on as the all-star game combine process gets going in the spring.
Yeah, alluring upside, and of course that dangerous P word, potential.
Yeah, exactly. How many guys have washed out because of that word?
He's Russ Lande. I'm Ric Serritella. We're here each and every Saturday. By the way, we started a half hour earlier today. Usually we start at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back at a regular scheduled time next week. So we appreciate the patience, and for you guys tuning in while you're here, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We're going to get into our first marquee matchup of the day here for Saturday, November 15th, 2025. It's the Week 12 edition. Only 2 more weeks of the regular season. It's hard to fathom. All right, we're going to go Big 12 this week, Russ. And, you know, it's not really at first glance on paper the best matchup, but because Utah's ranked 13th in the nation, 7-2, traveling on the road at Baylor, 5-4. You know, this is a trap game, I believe. And Baylor has a quarterback who can sling it a little bit. I'm going to get to him in a moment, Sawyer Robertson. But Baylor 5-4 with an opportunity to ruin Utah's college football playoff hopes. This one's going to be a Big 12 affair, 1 p.m. Eastern time on ABC. Just a little general overview going into this matchup before we break down the prospects, Russ.
Well, first, I agree with you. I think this is one of those games where you hope Utah's not overlooking it. Kyle's been a great coach at keeping his team to avoid the trap games over the course of his being there because Utah can't overlook anybody. Although in the NIL game, you can often get guys. They historically, and even now, they have a lot of guys that are sort of developed. They're not the program that's going to bring in 17 transfers from other schools. They develop guys like a guy like Ryan Davis, who is sort of built himself up, and now he's got a little twitch, and he can add something to your game. Yes, trap game. I think they win this, but I think Baylor is an underrated team. They may be 5-4, but they have a lot of talented players. It, to me, is a little bit of a mystery why they haven't been a better team this year. I think Utah wins, but I do think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, you mentioned Kyle Whittingham. I'm a big fan of Dave Aranda too, and I'm not sure what happened at Baylor. I had big expectations, or at least bigger expectations coming into the season, But he's a very good coach. One of the best people I've met actually in this business. That Dave Aranda, just a great human being.
No
But
doubt.
let's take a look at the prospects, Russ, and we'll start off since Utah's on the road. Let's take a look at the top Utes prospects. What do you got?
Well, firstly, I got to jump in, and I know normally you're the guy that jumps in with all the sophomore, the redshirt sophomores and the juniors, but the right tackle for Utah Fano, I mean, 55, he's impressive. I mean, I know everybody likes to talk about their left tackle, but actually, when I watch the film, I think the right tackle may have a little bit more upside. He's a really athletic kid. He can pull. He can get out in space. He's got good feet. There are times he gets a little soft with his inside hand, which is a little frustrating, but I think his potential at the NFL is really high. Their center Kump, a bigger center. Not many centers are over 6'5". He's got long arms. This kid's going to play in the NFL. He's a long, big center. Very fundamentally sound. I like this kid. I think he's got a lot of upside. Their guard, Togoi, their left guard, he's a good player. I don't love him, but I think he's a guy that's going to get a chance as a PFA. And the right guard, I'm gonna screw this name up. Mokafisi. Not as big as their other guys. 6'3", 315. Good player, similar to Togiai, and that probably a PFA. But you look at that, and you're talking high-end right tackle, elite to me center, two very good guards, a good left tackle. That's going to be an O-line that's going to help them do a lot of things. Ryan Davis, we've talked about him before, sort of an unheralded guy on the national stage, but this kid can run. He's deceptive. He gets down the field. He makes plays consistently. He is going to be a guy that Baylor's defense is going to have to control. I think there's something there in this kid to play at the next level. Defensively, most of Utah's best players are underclassmen, but we've talked about him before. The linebacker, Barton. This is a big, long, good-looking kid, 6'4", 236. He's got sideline range. When you put on the Utah film, you just constantly see this guy making plays, whether it's filling the gap, whether it's chasing down plays in pursuit. This kid's an all-around linebacker. I think he's going to be a starter in the NFL. They have a defensive tackle, V. Mahali. Big kid, 6'3", over 300. Good football player. I don't think he's got the explosion that's going to warrant him being a guy that's early in the draft. I think late in the draft, PFA type guy, going to get consideration. And they have a tall corner named Blake Cotton, who's sort of come on, big kid, over 6'1", 190 pounds plus. Long linear kid, not a top end speed guy that I've seen so far, but with that length, I think he's a guy that's going to get late round PFA consideration. He's an intriguing kid because it's hard to find corners that are good athletes that are over 6'1".
Yeah, I mean, Utah's got some underrated talent here, and I'll just reiterate with the offensive line. I mean, these guys are Sunday type of prospects, and you mentioned Spencer Fano. I can't figure out if I like Caleb Lomu or Spencer Fano more. I think Fano is more ready right now, but I think Lomu has the potential and the upside to be better down the road. But Fano's a fluid mover, powerful puncher, vulnerable, though, a little bit against power rushers. Want to see him have a better anchor. Overall, though, the size, agility, experience. He's got 4 uncles who played in the pros, so you love that kind of bloodlines. And then Lomu is just a technician, right? You love the technique. He does need more consistent hands, in my opinion, but the fact that he's playing left tackle, I think, speaks volumes to his potential. Lander Barton reminds me of his brother, Cody Barton. I was over in Tennessee Titans training camp, and I'm Cody Barton flying around sideline to sideline. And I've been very impressed with Lander Barton, not just with this year's film, but last year's film and the year before. He's very consistent, not a premium linebacker prospect, but you start getting into the middle rounds. This is a guy maybe you get plucked in 3rd or 4th round with a down the road type of starter. 2 defensive backs I do want to mention. Teo Johnson, who's kind of been hanging out at the collegiate level for quite a while. He's a big, longer, lengthier type of cornerback. And then I just got hit up. I haven't done homework on him yet, but I just got hit up by a scout to make sure I check out Smith Snowden, who's more of a slot back, nickel back kind of defender, but also on the NFL radar. So just some names you need to know when you're tuned into the Utah Utes at the Baylor Bears today. And anything you want to follow up on there, Russ?
No, I think you nailed it right on the the T basically. I mean, I think the key for this game is really going to be Utah. They have a lot. Their offensive line, that it's crazy. If their offensive line does their job, when you have 5 guys who are legitimate NFL prospects, that's the whole key to the game to me. So I'm excited to watch it. I really like the comparison, watching their right and left tackle, seeing which one, what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are. It reminds me a little bit of, go back about 5 years, and Iowa had Alaric Jackson at left and Tristan Wirfs at right. Wirfs went top 5, Alaric undrafted. Now they're both starting in the NFL, earning probably $5 to $10 million a year.
Yeah. No, I agree. Very good reference there. All right, Russ Lande, Ric Serritella, turning the page over to the Baylor Bears, Russ, who are, first off, let me just say this, because we mentioned Kenyon Sadiq at the top of the show. A lot of people feel like he's the number 1 tight end, but Michael Trigg has been atop of our big board for most of the season at Baylor. Huge size, catch radius, fearless over the middle. This guy makes big play after big play, deceptive speed. He's got to, sharpen some of his route running, but just natural hands, a playmaker for the Baylor Bears offense, and probably Sawyer Robertson's favorite target. And I want to talk about Sawyer Robertson because I have studied him extensively. And I know, this is a guy, don't get caught by the box score, right? Because I know a lot of people have thought very highly of Sawyer Robertson. If you look at the stats, it looks very good. But when you watch him play, there is nothing clean about his mechanics. His release, his upper body and lower body are not working in unison. And what frustrates me the most about Sawyer Robertson, he could toss around the parking lot for 400 yards every game. I could care less. When he makes the easy throws hard for his receivers because of poor timing, because of off-platform throws, not being able to, you talk about being able to throw your receiver open. Sawyer Robertson does none of that. Now, he's got a very quick release, right? But the errant throws, the poor mechanics, throwing off the back foot constantly. This is not a NFL ready type of quarterback by any means. Now, maybe the bloodlines help him out. He is the cousin of Jarrett Stidham. His father was a first-round pick of the MLB draft by the Montreal Expos back in 1990. So he's got a little bit of bloodlines working for him. I'm just not a believer. I would not even use a draft pick on Sawyer Robertson, but I have seen him spoken of very highly. I don't see it when I watch him, Russ.
Well, I think what you're saying, it matches what I see, what I think everybody's talking about is if you take the physical skill set, arm strength, release quickness, athletic ability, it's there. There's no doubt about that. But when you watch the game, you don't see consistency. When I watch him, what I see is a kid that probably at 8 or 9 was so much better than everybody that he just became that quarterback we all remember that would just run around and dominate when he was young playing football, gets to high school, keeps doing the same thing, and he's never really improved on the small things. And that's where he needs work. Now, I will say, if you're a team like the Patriots or the Josh McDaniel or the 49ers with Kyle Shanahan, who have guys that are really good at breaking down the fundamentals and training guys, he'd be a great guy in the 7th round or 6th round. Throw a dart. Because I think physically there's something there. Now, odds are it's probably never going to translate, but get him with a coach who's really good at teaching the fundamentals, getting the feet placed correctly, getting the mechanics. You mentioned the quick release. Quick release isn't everything. A lot of quarterbacks fall in love with, I get rid of the ball fast. Don't have to worry about anything else. Don't have to worry about the trajectory, the arm angle. Don't have to worry about my feet at all because the ball's coming out quickly. That's not right. So with Robertson, I think the point you make is great is there's something there, but we've seen a lot of guys where there was something there and it never developed because there are so many things that he needs to do. So, frustrating guy.
Bryce Petty comes to mind of Baylor quarterback, right? Just kind of never
developed. Yep. And I don't even know if Bryce had this kid's pure physical. I mean, this kid, the ball, he can spin it.
Yeah.
But you don't know where it's going. And that's the real concern there is the consistency. And it's interesting because you mentioned Trigg, but they've got a good amount of weapons. It's not like it's only Trigg. Trigg's a very athletic kid. He's got good hands. He can run. But they have Josh Cameron, the big receiver, big 6'1", 220-pound kid, underrated athlete, runs better than I think people think. And then they have 2 kids who weren't even on the list coming into the year that are playing a significant role in Ashton Hawkins, 6th-year receiver, and Cole Wilson. Both these guys are littler guys in that 5'9" range, but they've been productive players this year for them. When I say productive, that's productive for an offense that I think is a little bit underachieved at times. But those are both guys they're not getting drafted. They're PFA type guys. But I think when you look at that offense overall with Cameron, with Trigg, with Hawkins and Wilson, they have some targets. Ashton Hawkins, he's an intriguing kid. He's developed over his career. He may be a 6-year guy, but there's something there. They have 2 good guards. When you look at Langhall and Adebayan, if I'm saying that correctly, not guys that are going to get consideration as early draft picks, but I think both of these guys are going to get a chance at the NFL level. On defense, it's really a young defense. Not many seniors that are playing a significant role. You have Jackie Marshall, defensive tackle. He's a good football player. Actually, when I watch Marshall, I think the thing that's weird is I know he's listed at 6'2" even. He looks smaller to me on film in terms of height. And I'm sure he's going to measure 6'2" because those are NFL measurements. But he looks like he's about 6 foot and change. But he's a good football player. Shorter arms than ideal for a defensive tackle. But he's a good player. I think he's a mid-round type guy. And they have a safety named Devin Bobby. Not a big kid, but he constantly is making plays. I'm interested to see how he tests out. I don't know if he's got that twitchy speed that you look for in a safety. But this is a team that I can't figure out why they haven't won more games, because I do think they have talent, both on offense as senior draft eligible and on defense with younger guys. This is a talented team. I'm surprised they're not better than 5-4, especially because we both know Dave is a hell of a football coach, and I'm shocked that they're not better because I think Dave is one of the better coaches in college ball. And, I know a lot of people love the fact that Rick was muted so they didn't have to hear his voice, but we got to have him talking.
Right. Hey, I do it at least once a week. That's Russ's favorite part of the show. He doesn't have to listen to my mouth. But, Baylor, that's why they might mess around and find out and actually win this game, because they do have the talent and they were expected to do big things. And one other guy, I love the redshirt sophomores because technically they are draft eligible.
Yeah, they are. And all those guys.
Yeah, Bryson Washington out of Baylor. And I don't know if he's a candidate to come out this year at 6'1", 220 pounds. But you just look at the way he's come on in recent weeks, and he's definitely going to be a name worth monitoring. In fact, he had 1,000 yards rushing last year. He's got 624 rushing yards this year, 18 touchdowns since last season. So a big part of that Baylor Bears offense. But I think, you basically touched base on everybody I wanted to discuss. Keaton Thomas, the linebacker, is somebody I think in that late round mix, just worth keeping an eye on, somebody who caught my attention and someone who the coaches speak very, very highly on as well. So there's a look at your Baylor Bear prospects. Just a quick reminder, we're here each and every Saturday morning. We started a little bit earlier today, but usually it's our 10 a.m. kickoff each and every Saturday. We got a couple of more regular season weeks. We'll be here for the bowl game previews. And we are, as of today, Russ, 160 days exactly from Destination Pittsburgh, the 2026 NFL Draft. Are you excited yet?
It's coming fast. I can't believe I was looking up and getting all the data for talking today, and I was looking at future schedules. I was like, wait a second, 2 more weeks? I was like, what's going on here? How are we at 2 weeks yet? It's crazy.
Unbelievable. 3 months of just flew by.
The Grey Cup is tomorrow. I mean, it's all happening too fast.
The Grey Cup is the best game of the week this week. 6 p.m. Sunday kickoff in Winnipeg, the 112th Grey Cup. It is going to be a phenomenal game. And I know we're a little bit tight on time. If we have some spare minutes to mess around with at the end, maybe we'll touch base on the Grey Cup. But let's get into our second marquee matchup, shall we?
Yeah.
We're going to go over to, Notre Dame is kind of the token ACC representative. They're not actually in the ACC, but that COVID year they were. And Pittsburgh is really catapulting up the ACC standing. Don't look now, Russ. Matt Heischnickel, the true freshman quarterback. They turned to him about 5 weeks ago. They've been undefeated since. We've talked about Notre Dame's fabulous freshman and CJ Carr in his own right. Notre Dame also 7-2. Notre Dame ranked number 10. Pittsburgh ranked number 24. This one's going to be 1 p.m. on ABC. And Notre Dame comes in as like 12.5 point favorites. I would not put it past the Panthers to actually win this game. Notre Dame better be careful. This is another one of those what we call trap games.
It's both a trap game and it's also a game where I think sometimes Notre Dame, because of Notre Dame, gets a little more credit for their wins. And a place like Pitt, for whatever reason, since Marino, they've just never gotten the consistent credit when they have a good team. I think Pitt is more like a top 12 or 15 team, right around the same ranking. I really like their team. I think it's interesting to have two freshman quarterbacks going against each other. I do think it's going to be a close game. I think what's interesting is Notre Dame is primarily younger guys. Pitt is a lot of older veteran seniors on the roster. So it should
And
be a great game.
Narduzzi always has a tough defense.
Oh, Narduzzi's a great coach. I mean, I remember when he went there, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's going there. It's gonna ruin his career. He's never gonna be able to win." And here he is, a decade later, just chugging along. He's heck of a coach. He's turned down opportunities to go to bigger schools. He knows he has a great thing going there. You can't get a better dude. So I always root for Pittsburgh. Not that I root against Notre Dame. I mean, their coach may be one of the nicest guys you ever meet, too. But in terms of just Pitt, I just love watching him. I'm excited to see this game. I think it's going to be a good, close dogfight.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman, he's been amidst the rumors of every head coaching opening out there. So we'll see if he stays put at Notre Dame. But let's start off with the Fighting Irish since they're on the road. Russ, by the way, like I mentioned, you can go over to the website, allaccessfootball.com. We got the draft headquarters, the 2026 rankings, the Notre Dame NFL Draft Watch report. We're up to 29 draft eligible prospects, and we've got over 15 in-depth scouting reports on the Notre Dame page. And our guy, Will Donahue, has been cranking out like a maniac. So shout out to him, but you can follow along at home. We're not going to get to all 29 guys, Russ, but I guess we should start off in the dynamic backfield of Batman and Robin. I mean, they got two of the best looking running back prospects in the nation sharing the same backfield.
They do. And I will say, I understand everybody wants to talk about those guys. I get it. My favorite guy is Malachi Fields. He, to me, is the most intriguing guy because he's a big guy. He can run. I really like him. I think he's a guy that has a chance. I mean, I'm not saying for sure, but he's got a chance to go higher in the draft than I think people think because he's a big kid. He looks the part. He can do just about anything you want him to do on the field. I think there's something there with this kid that's going to really allow him to be a very good NFL player. I can't wait to watch him. Also, with everybody focusing on the running backs, they tend to overlook Eli Raritan, and that's a guy you brought my attention to earlier in the year. I hadn't really seen him until you brought him up. And this is a kid that can play ball. I mean, you're talking about a kid that's big, and Notre Dame, sort of like Iowa, but not at the same level. They have a history recently of bringing out tight ends, one after the other, of guys that they may not become stars, but they become good, solid NFL tight ends. And this kid's another guy. He is a good player. I think he's going to be a very productive guy at the NFL level. I'm really excited to watch those two today. The two guys on defense that I'm really looking forward to seeing, the two seniors, you have Jason Anye, the defensive tackle. This is a big kid. I love him because he's not only big at 6'4" and change and over 334+ inch arms. So I know that some NFL people think he's not explosive enough. He's not a playmaker. But when you look at a kid that's this long with those long arms, who's strong and competitive, I think there's a home for this kid in the NFL. And Devonta Smith, the DB, this is a guy that doesn't have the height. He's about 5'10". He's not a blazer. I don't think he's going to run under a 4.5. But this kid's just a good football player. I think he has a home in the NFL as a backup, but I like it. Those are the four guys I'm really excited to see today in terms of prospects.
Yeah, the other Devonta Smith, not the wide receiver out of Alabama on the Eagles. There's another Devonta Smith. And I like the other cornerback, Christian Gray, who played very well earlier in the season. He's kind of dipped off a little bit, but I saw elite closing speed, rapid reactions, ball skills, the willingness to step up against the run, and one of the most important aspects of a cornerback, a short memory. When he gets beat, when he makes a mistake, he shakes it off, he bounces back, and I love the short memory of Christian Gray coming in at just under 6 feet tall. You mentioned Malachi Fields. I think he is a top 100 guy. He's been highly productive. I know it's not as productive this season, but he's got about 500 yards. He's went over 800 in each of the previous 2 seasons. So he's a high impact player. He's going to make an immediate impact, I think, as soon as he gets to the NFL. You mentioned Eli Raritan. I mean, this guy's like playing with a 6th offensive lineman. He's that good on the inline, right? And then he can't get you hurt in the passing game. Like, he's had some big time games, catching the ball, 6'6", 265 pounds. Like this guy, you want to run a jumbo package, then you want to look into Eli Raritan once you get to that mid-round day 2, early day 3 range. I think he might even get bumped up the board. I think he's a top 4 or 5 player at the position. Emil Wagner is a guy that's getting a lot of attention. Offensive tackle, might have to kick inside at the next level. Got that inside-outside versatility and the size to go along with it. So just keep an eye on those 2 young men. And then, for me, I have Jeremiah Love as a top 10 overall prospect. I really do believe that
he's a tremendous running back.
I think he's a higher rated player than Ashton Genty a year ago.
I'm not sure I'm there yet, because the one thing I think that I saw from Genty that I haven't seen from Love is that rare twitch. I think Love's quick and fast. I just thought Genty was a little twitchier, but I get it. I'm not saying we're talking like here and down here. Yeah. I think we're talking like here and here. I mean, and the question is, does he come out or does he stay?
Yeah, I mean, well, he's a running back, so I would
assume he's going to
come out. But like, I don't know if people realize, like, Genty went 6th overall. Like, Love is going to go very high.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be a first-round pick. There's no question about it. If he comes out, which he probably will, which underclassmen, that's your thing. There's no doubt. I mean, when you look at, everybody likes to say, and we talk about this all the time in SMWW, and I get the question, why don't running backs have value anymore? And I tell them, I said, running backs do have value. They have tremendous value. I said, the problem is, if they're not rare and special, they're considered replaceable. A very good. There's not much difference.
But when you have an elite guy,
that's right. They'll draft him and they'll pay him. So that's right. And that's where Love fits in. Love is a guy that when you look at what he could be for an offense, I mean, it's funny when you look at the Chargers, and I'm a Chargers fan. I mean, everybody, they love the kid they took in the draft this year. But imagine that offense with a guy like Love. I mean, that to me is when you look and say, oh, this could be special, because they're not a great offensive line now with their 2 tackles out, but a guy like Love, he's dynamic. He could really upgrade things. So he's the type of running back teams are going to say, screw the whole running back doesn't go early. He's going to be a first-round pick, unless there's something medically or something that we don't know about.
Yeah, and for whatever it's worth, I don't think another running back gets into the first round, but the second running back off the board could very well be his teammate, Jadarian Price, and that's just a Batman and Robin type of backfield. Both of these guys, they got speed, they got size, they got explosiveness, they got inside-outside ability, and I just love the Notre Dame backfield. So again, there's 29 draft eligible prospects over on the website. You guys can go nuts and go crazy, spend all morning getting ready for this game before the kickoff. And again, 1 p.m. over on ABC. All right, Russ Lande, Ric Serritella here on the All Access Football NFL Draft Watch Show. We talked about Notre Dame. Let's turn our attention to the Pitt Panthers. I don't think we've discussed them all season long. We mentioned the freshman quarterback, Russ, but let's focus on some of these draft eligible prospects. In fact, I'll kick off with Kyle Lewis, the linebacker, because he's given me Sam Mills vibes. Undersized, playmaking linebacker. I know there's some questions about his early down effectiveness. I'm not buying it. I'm a believer in Kyle Lewis. He's got great pass coverage ability, great range, can cover the pass. Plays that star role for Pittsburgh. They might moonlight him at linebacker, a little bit of safety, but he is, don't get it twisted, the heart and soul of this Pitt Panther program.
No, I think you nail it on the screws with this guy. This is a guy that I think is being a little bit overlooked. He's a really good football player. In today's NFL, we both know this. 15 years ago, if you were great in coverage, but you were not strong against the run and physical, teams killed you. You all of a sudden were undraftable. Nowadays, if you're not a really good coverage linebacker, teams rarely consider you before late in the draft, because if you put a guy who's a limited guy in coverage, teams will put an X on him and they will beat him to death with tight ends and running backs all game. This kid excels in coverage. So that's going to allow him to succeed. And the interesting is they're really, to me, I think all over offense and defense, they're loaded. Whether it's Spires on the defensive line, who to me is an underrated player, 6'3", 250, good pass rusher, not a special player, but a guy that I think is going to get an undrafted chance. They have 2 tall corners. They're not blazers, but I like both these kids. When you have Taman Lynham, Rashad Battle, 6'2" plus for Battle, 207 pounds. 6'1.5" for linemen, or linemen, excuse me. Both of these guys are going to get looks at by NFL teams because even if they're in the high 4.5s, NFL teams can't literally get enough of 6-foot-plus corners. These are both intriguing guys. Their safety, McIntyre, good athlete, not twitchy or special in terms of speed. This kid's a good football player. And to me, I think a lot of their unique players for draft eligible are really on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm going to even throw out, Rick, don't have a heart attack. It's going to be a surprise. An underclassman is Kenny Johnson because he caught my attention. This kid is a legit receiver. I mean, he's not huge. He's probably about 6 foot and a little bit. Maybe he gets to 6'1". But you talk about a guy that not only is their best dominant receiver, but he's also their punt and kickoff return guy. I mean, this is a guy that's versatile. I think this is a guy that early on is going to be able to step in pretty quickly in the NFL and make an impact on teams. And I think he's going to play at receiver. They have a kid named Poppy Williams, Raphael Poppy Williams, not on the NFL list coming into the season, but when you watch this kid play, he's a productive receiver. I think he's going to be an undrafted guy, but I think he's going to get a shot. Jake Overman, the tight end, not special, probably in that 6'3", 6'4" range, about 235, 240. But he is the type of guy who often gets an undrafted opportunity. My favorite guy, I don't know if he's a legitimate NFL guy, is little Desmond Reed. I love this kid, love watching little running backs. Maybe it's my bias from all the years in the CFL and that big field. You put this guy up on that big field, he's going to do some special things. Now, he is 5'5" and 6'8", 169 pounds, and he has little 8 5/8 hands. So the NFL teams are going to look at that and say, "Oh, Nelly." But I will bring up the two guys in the same draft. 5'051 was the little kid Maurice Jones-Drew, and 5'053 was Darren Sproles.
Yeah, we talked about
both of them. Yeah, both of them turned out okay. So I'm not saying Desmond Reed is that guy, but I'm just saying I like this kid out in space. I think he's got a little something to him. I wouldn't write him off. Also, we can't overlook they have two good offensive linemen. I think one, Jeff Percy, is going to go higher than people think. Big 6'7" kid. The 33-inch arms, I think some teams are going to be a little bit nervous about that staying at tackle. But I think overall, he's a guy that is good enough to start in the NFL. It's whether the comfort level is going to be, can he play tackle or is he a guard? I tend to think he's more of a tackle. And then they have Lyndon Cooper, veteran center. Not a big kid, 6'1", 315, but very efficient, very smart, as is you would expect from Narduzzi and his coaching staff. This kid understands what he has to do. He makes whatever calls need to be made, plays over his feet, real leader. I like this kid. I think he's going to have a tough time surviving and getting a spot on a starting spot. But I think he's the type of guy who could sneak in and be that third center, practice squad type guy for a few years to see if he can get better.
You know, you did a great job covering the Pitt Panthers, Russ. I don't really have anything to add. That was a very, very...
can we get someone to write this down?
Yeah, that was a very, very elaborate, thorough breakdown of the Pitt Panthers prospects. Well done there. All right. We are going to talk about our last game of the day. Shout out to our chat room people. Love seeing Douglas Dorner in the chat. Shout out to the Alpha Gridiron One, says he loves the show. We appreciate the love and support. Can I pop that on the air? There you go. Bang, bang. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the shout out. And if you do like it, make sure you like, share, and subscribe and tell a friend that it's them again, because we're here each and every Saturday. Again, usually at 10 a.m. kickoff. We went a half hour early due to some scheduling conflicts, but we'll be back at a regular scheduled time next week. And we do have one more marquee matchup. Again, go over to allaccessfootball.com. Check out the Draft Insider, because we also highlighted about, 40 prospects or so for the Texas Longhorns, number 11 in the nation, Ross, back creeping up into that top 10 territory. They began number 1, 7-2 at Georgia, 8-1, 7:30 ABC, and this doesn't only have SEC championship ramifications, but this is essentially looking like a college football playoff eliminator.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, and I think the one thing that I think is so important when they talk about everybody knows Kirby Smart, he gets all his credit, but Sark is not getting enough credit. I mean, people killed him after week 1. Arch didn't play well. This team is done. forget about him. And
Well, he always
7-2.
loses a big game that he's supposed to win, I think, is
Yeah.
the knock on Sark,
Yeah.
right?
But like they were throwing this guy out there, and then he's 7-2 with a first-year starting quarterback that lost a lot of players to the NFL last year. This guy's a heck of a coach. I know everybody's pretty well. They think that that the extension that he's locked in. I do think there's going to be some NFL teams poking around him at the end of the season. I think teams with young quarterbacks that maybe aren't winning, that may have fired their coach, maybe I don't know, like Tennessee, something like that, might be willing to talk to this guy. Maybe the Giants, somebody that can come in and work with a young guy, get that footwork figured out. Anyway, so Texas prospects, it's mostly young guys, but I got to say, there's a few guys we always talk about, and we've talked about these guys a ton. We know Arch Manning, but DJ Campbell, we've talked about him a ton. Really good football player, big in terms of looks the part on the hoof, even though he's only 6'2.5". Real long arms. I think this guy's a slam dunk starter in the NFL. I think he's an easy guy. And the weird thing I will say about Campbell is, although he doesn't have the height, I think he's actually a guy that he could be on game day. He could be your emergency tackle. I like this kid. I think he's a really fundamentally sound guy, really smart, and those long arms would give him a chance. If you're in a pinch in a game, I'm not saying you want him playing tackle, but if you had to get out of a game, I think he could do it. Defensively, they got a lot of guys. Ethan Burke, big, long, linear guy. We've talked about him before. I see a little bit of the old Aaron Cantman kid out of Iowa. Nice. Long, not a special athlete, but a good athlete. Finds a way to get to the quarterback. The Trey Moore kid, another kid that to me, I haven't exactly figured out. He sort of rotates. He's not always on the field, but he's one of the top guys on the team in terms of tackles, sacks, tackles for losses. And he was an impact guy a year ago that everybody thought was going to be a top 5, top 10 pick, elite prospect. Comes in this year, and it's weird how he's playing. And not in terms of that he's not playing well, but just that the amount of snaps, he's not always the starter. He comes in sometimes. It's odd, but this kid's a hell of a football player. I think he's got an NFL future. Hiru Kanu, the guy who's come out of nowhere, they're tall, linear D tackle at 6'5", just about 300. And then they got the Gilbo at corner. I think this kid's a really good football player. 5'11", which really that's sort of the cutoff now. You get below 5'11" now, NFL teams like, okay, I guess so, but we don't really love it. Years ago, it was if you were under 5'9". Now it's up to 5'11". He's a good football player. He can run. He's long. And you've loved the kid. You've bringing him up since the preseason. Taffy, the safety. This kid you talk about a kid that's always around the ball, always making big plays. He's a really good football player. I like watching him play. Does he have enough on the top end in terms of athleticism to be more than a backup at the next level? I'm not sure. But I think if you're talking about a guy that could be a third or fourth safety, special teams guy, this guy to me screams 10-year career in the NFL, maybe with 3 starts. Like that type of guy who carves out a role because of his smarts, his competitiveness, and he has enough athleticism to be a good player, just not enough to be a good starter.
Yeah, I think, he's a late round guy that you want to try to upgrade that 47 to 53 bottom of the roster. He's a guy you want to look at, Michael Taffy. Malik Muhammad has got some love out there. I think he projects as more of a nickelback at the next level. I think my big issue with him is in 5 seasons, I don't think this kid has a single interception, which, you like to see him make a play and, create a turnover, show up on the stat sheet, do something.
Well, I'll give you a little thing that, and it's not, this isn't from me. This is from Charlie Army at the Rams from years ago. When he would talk about DBs, he always broke it down. He said, I don't mind if you have a bad year, you don't get an interception. But he said, if you started for a number of years in college and I never see an interception, he said, there's either one or 2 things going on. He said, either you have bricks for hands or you have zero instincts. He said, it's one or the other. He goes, because if you've got instincts, you're going to get a chance to intercept the ball. So you got to be dropping them. Or if you have great hands, you just got to not be getting opportunities to do it, which is because of instincts. So it's something that always triggers in my head when there's an elite guy. And I'm not saying first round elite. I'm just saying elite like a college player.
Multiple starter at a Power 4 program.
Yeah. And no interceptions.
It's concerning.
It's a red flag of he may be a guy that ends up getting in and always impresses the coaches in practice and then in games disappoints. Those are and I'm not saying this kid in particular, but I'm saying historically, guys that have started 20 games in college with no interceptions, usually there's a red flag that at the NFL level, they can't be as productive as a corner.
Yeah, and that we got to talk. We're talking defense. We got to talk about Anthony Hill. Didn't really get off to a fast start. Had a huge season last year. He's come on of late, but you talk about size, you talk about production, you talk about athleticism, you talk about versatility, you talk about getting after the quarterback, dropping back in coverage, roaming the sideline to sideline. Like, there's very few weaknesses in Anthony Hill's overall game. And I know we're going to talk about another linebacker on the Georgia side of the ball, but I think Hill's right up there. When you get into the back end of the first round, this is a day one plug and play starter, I believe. And really, I have not come off of the Anthony Hill hype train, despite some of the others who have. Trevor Gooseby over on the offensive side, redshirt sophomore, starting tackle, little bit of buzz around him in terms of could he be a potential first round pick. I'd like to see him go back to school for another year, hopefully along with Arch Manning, who I'll talk about in a second. But Gooseby does have alluring size. He does have great length. He does have powerful strength. And he's done very well this season. Of course, C.J. Baxter and Quintavion Wisner is a two-headed backfield punch. I think both guys eventually land on the NFL radar. Maybe mid to late round guys. We'll see. I think they should also both return for another year. And we've gone about the whole entire show without mentioning Arch Manning. The last couple of weeks, I've seen what I think is the next step of Arch. He's been making some high-level throws. I've seen him squeezing the ball in tight windows. We're finally starting to see Arch play the way we anticipated. And I don't know if that knock in the head, that concussion that knocked him out for a game, did him some good or something, but he's looked like a different quarterback since coming back from that injury.
Yeah, and I think it's twofold. I think it's one, just getting the games under your belt, and two, maybe missing a little time. Sometimes you take a step back, you see things from a different perspective. You don't feel as rushed. You understand things the world ain't going to end if you have a bad game. So I think part of it is just being a young kid that's maturing through all this. I think what you're seeing now is what we hope we see a year from now, which is a guy who can play at this level consistently, which he's done since he got back. I think what you're seeing, hopefully, is a kid that is going to be the guy we thought he was, that maybe we were putting too much expectation on at the beginning of the year to expect a guy in his basically first year as a starter, and really first starts ever, other than that one game last year. We thought people were anointing him All-American without ever really playing. It's like, let's take a deep breath. I think this year has been a lot of ups and downs, but the arrow is pointing up. And I think next year you will see a quarterback that really explodes and plays at a very high level all season.
Agree. He's Russ Lande. I'm Ric Serritella. We're winding down our NFL Draft Watch show each and every Saturday. It's what we do, the best day of the week here. And we've got a couple weeks of the regular season until the college football playoffs begin. Bowl game season. We'll have the bowl game watch. It'll be a lot of fun. So please like it, share it, subscribe it. We're here each and every Saturday. You can always watch the archive on YouTube or Twitter X. All right. Let's go over to the Georgia Bulldogs. They've been a NFL factory under Kirby Smart there, Russ. And again, not as many projected first rounders as in years past. They've been rated quite a few the last couple seasons, but still a handful of guys projected on day one, a bushel of guys in the mid to late round prospects, probably 24 draftable prospects here on this Georgia Bulldogs squad. What do you got?
Well, I'm gonna highlight a handful of them, not 24, because we'll be here for 6 years if you ask me to talk about those many. But personally, on offense, I think it's really interesting that you have three guys who are legitimate receiver prospects.
Yeah.
Not often you see that. Often you see one legitimate guy and two or three like fringe free agent guys. But when you look at Noah Thomas and Colby Young, you have two big boys. I mean, Noah Thomas is over 6'4". Colby Young is 6'3" and 5'8", and 215 pounds for Colby Young. You have two big kids who can run. NFL teams are intrigued because we've talked about it a million times. The bigger receiver is in now. I think both of these kids are probably going to push that third, fourth round consideration, maybe even higher based on how well they test, how well the medical goes. I like both of them. The Dylan Bell, to me, still the guy with the most upside and potential. It's been a very up and down year. This is a guy that wasn't starting early on due to a variety of reasons, wasn't producing at the same level. Not as big as those guys. He's basically 6 foot 215. But you talk about a kid that's got a legitimate get up and go. This kid can go. Very intrigued by how well he does in the, what do we want to call it, the spring scouting season, where all-star games, interviews, combine, all that. I think he's the guy that he's either going to launch himself up or he's going to go tumbling down, because teams are going to want to know what happened this year. Why was not Bell the dominant guy every single week? Because he's so gifted. One offensive lineman that I'm intrigued by, I don't think he's a high-end kid, but the Micah Morris kid.
Yes.
Good size guard. I mean, I shouldn't say good size. Big, thick-bodied kid, 6'4", 340, long arms at 33 3/4. Good football player. Is he good enough to get drafted? I think he's right on that fringe. We've talked about the tight end Delp a lot. This is a kid I think is underrated. I think he has very good hands. I don't think he's twitchy when you watch him run. He's a little bit stiff, a little bit upright. But I think the kid's got a chance late to be a consideration because he's 6'4", athletic enough to challenge to make a roster with good hands. On the defensive side, it's a lot of underclassmen, which I leave to you. But they have Dalen Everett, the corner. We talk about a lot. 6 foot kids. This kid's 6 foot and change, 193 pounds, good speed. I think he's the guy that NFL teams are intrigued by. I think he could push high in day 2 because this is a kid that's really athletic and he can run for a 6 foot plus corner.
Yeah, no doubt. You hit a lot of the guys I wanted to touch base on. I guess sticking on defense. Also, Christian Miller, defensive tackle. I think one of the top 5 prospects at his position. Another one of these top 100 guys. And then CJ Allen, the linebacker. We talked about Anthony Hill. CJ Allen is like shot out of a cannon. This guy's making plays, tackles for loss, flying around the football field. I believe he's in that first round mix as well. On the offensive side of the ball, you covered just about everybody I wanted to talk about, but let's not forget about their speedy, elusive receiver, Zachariah Branch, who came over from USC, redshirt junior, so I'm not sure if he's going to declare, but this is a guy, if he does get invited to the NFL Scouting Combine, could challenge for the fastest 40 time. He's been recorded in that 4.3 range, right around there for Zachariah Branch, and then, you know, he's started multiple years for one of the best programs in the country. I think Gunnar Stockton is like a poor man's Riley Leonard. I think he gets at least brought into a training camp. Maybe he hangs out at the practice squad for a year or two. If not, then I would believe Canada is going to come calling for Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, I think Gunnar Stockton is what you're looking for in Canada. I think he's going to struggle to stick in the NFL. And I will say, the thing I want to see from Gunnar, even for the CFL, is can he be accurate enough consistently? Because you and I know from working the CFL is not about the giant arm because the field's bigger. The CFL is about accuracy because you got 2 downs. Because third down, it's punt or you've gotten the first down. So if you're not accurate, you ain't playing. And that's the thing I want to see from Gunnar. Does he have enough accuracy to really be a professional quarterback? To me, that's a big debate. I'm not sure when I watch him, he's got the passing skills to play at the next level.
No, I'm with you. He's Russell Lande. I'm Ric Serritella, and we're with you each and every Saturday, live 10 a.m. Eastern. We started a half hour early, so we're going to wrap up early here. We got a couple minutes to mess around with. Once again, shout out to our chat room people. Love seeing Doug Dorner, Alpha Gridiron 1. And, of course, we cannot forget Cam Dorner, the North Texas Mean Green wide receiver number 4. We have written up at our mid-major and small school prospect watch. We'll have to do a show here one day during, before the end of the calendar year where we highlight some of the mid-major and small school guys, because believe it or not, we had our first player officially declare for the NFL draft this week, and it was a blip on the radar. I don't know if you saw it, but 7th-year quarterback DeQuan Finn has left Miami, Ohio, Russ, to concentrate on the 2026 NFL draft. So there you go.
7th year. Dang. What is he? I hope he's got at least either his master's or his PhD at this point. My goodness. I didn't get 7 years. I got 4 years, partly because I was an awful athlete. But hey.
So anyway, we got a couple minutes left, and we both have worked in the Canadian Football League front office. And like I said, guys, do yourself a favor. I know it's NFL Sunday. I know the game starts at 6 o'clock, so the 4 o'clock window is still winding down. But do yourself a favor. Carve out a 3-hour window from 6 to 9. Watch the Grey Cup. It's going to be the best game you watch all week. You've got the Montreal Alouettes, Russ's former team, against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And Davis Alexander now has won 13 consecutive starts dating back to last season and this year's playoffs. He has not lost a start in his career. It's unbelievable. Now he has this hamstring injury. He's going to start, might relegate him to more of a pocket passer, Russ. But hey, if worse comes to worse, we saw it a couple years ago. McLeod Bethel Thompson came off the bench for the Toronto Argonauts to bring home the Grey Cup. The script has been written once again. Like, we could see McLeod Bethel Thompson finish this one off. But just a quick overview, your thoughts on this year's Grey Cup, the 112th Grey Cup in the longest running professional league in all of the planet out there in Winnipeg. What's your take on that?
I think it's going to be a great matchup. I think you talk about Corey Mace, the head coach of Saskatchewan, Jason Moss in Montreal, two really good coaches, very fiery guys. Both of them, like, they're going to lead. They're going to be the guy out front. And it's really intriguing because you have Davis Alexander, who, if I remember correctly from my time in Montreal, a member of Ottawa's front office who was with Montreal. Brendan Taman put him on the neg list. And I think it was Byron Archambault, who's a special teams coach and sort of the head of scouting or one of the head people there, really fought for Davis, really believed in him. And they deserve a lot of credit for having the courage to go with him this year. And he's sort of the young, new guy. On the other side, you have Trevor Harris. I've gotten to know Trevor. I consider him a friend. I mean, he is the veteran of veterans. He seems like he's about 400 years old. He's been playing up there forever, played in Edinburgh College. He is a freak of nature in terms of how he eats, how he trains, how he works out. Great mind, super accurate. Tremendous at working through progressions in the pocket. You are going to see a wide open game. Even though both teams have good defensive players, I think both these quarterbacks are going to be able to move the ball. It's going to be a really exciting football game. For those people that haven't watched the CFL, 17 and a half yards wider is the field. You're talking a 55-yard line for this year goes away. So the field is 110, 20-yard end zones. So there's a lot to love about the CFL game. Guys are in motion, no fair catches. Yeah. I mean, it's just a great sport. Watch the game. It's going to be a blast. If I had to be, as a betting man, I'm going to have to go with Montreal. It's just my heart. I want to see the Alouettes get another one. They've won one in the last 5 years. This will give them a second one. It's going to be a great game. If you haven't watched CFL, go watch this game. It is awesome football. These kids play with passion that you don't often see. Check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. CBS Sports Network on Sunday.
CBS Sports Network. You can also catch it on CFL.ca at the CFL Plus tab. You sign up with your email. You can watch it for free. And I'm going to go with Montreal as well. I'm not hopping off the Davis Alexander train, despite the hamstring injury and despite Saskatchewan having a better run game there too, I believe, with AJ Alouette. I'm a big fan of Darnell Sankey on Montreal. I think he's actually my pick for the most outstanding player in this game. I think he can have defensive most outstanding player. And for whatever the record is, I was at the Grey Cup last year, and right before the game, I was there with my guy Gabriel Morency, and I said, Gabe, you got to put a bet in for me. Bet me Toronto Argonauts. Bet me Nick Arbuckle MVP. We brought it home. They were the underdogs. Nobody believed in Arbuckle, and they got it done. And we went home winners that day. So,
and that was my first title in 18 years with the team. First one ever.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, first one ever. Yep, last year with Toronto. First time ever with the championship.
Man. Well, where's the ring? Show it to us.
Yeah, that ain't here.
You're still waiting on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Still waiting on it.
Exactly.
Hey, it's not the NFL, it's the CFL, so it's in the mail. But no, that was incredible. And I remember you were with Toronto Argonauts last year.
Yeah,
so
last year.
Previously Montreal, and as well as the Edmonton Elks.
Yeah, and Calgary.
What team haven't you worked for, Rob?
Exactly. I'm trying to cover them all at some point.
Well, hey, I know there's going to be some CFL GM openings. I think you should be in line for some interviews. I hope you do get that. And, of course, you can catch Russ over at the Football GM and Scouting course starting November 24th, along with our good friend Dane Vandernat, who's with the Hamilton Tiger Cats now.
Yeah.
And I know John Wooten has been involved with that. Mark Dominic has been involved with that. You want to give a quick oversight before we let you boogie, and we'll get you out of here?
Yeah, the SMWW have been doing it for over 15 years now. It's really sort of an intro to professional scouting. Each week, we're going to focus on a position and go over sort of the basics of what you should be looking for. And the sort of scope of the class is, hey, here's the basics of scouting. Here's how teams do it. And here is a blueprint for how you start to work in football. And then I give you a tip on here. Here are the ways you can take working in high school or working in low-level college football or working for a sports agency and try to go from there to moving up the ladder. There is no guarantee to work in the NFL. There never is in any way, shape, or form. But it's a way to determine if you, A, love scouting, and B, find some ways to get your foot in the door working in football. And that's really what it's all about. And I've been doing it forever. We've got guys in the NFL. We got guys in the CFL. We got guys working throughout college. We got guys at Pro Football Focus. They're all over the place. I can't guarantee you it's going to happen today, but there's a kid who took my class when he was a senior in high school over a decade ago who just now got his first job this year in the NFL. It was a long journey, but he made it. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Those are the facts of life right there. And I know we're on a tight schedule. So, Russ, we're going to let you boogie on out of here. I'm just going to recap some of the content and programming alerts that we have going on at All Access Football. We always appreciate the time checking in from Chicago. Enjoy your day. We'll do it again next week, my man.
That sounds great, man. Thanks as always for having me a part of the Ric Show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's the NFL Draft Watch show. Russ is the star of the show. I'm just here to steer the ship, and we're here each and every Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern. We started a little bit earlier today, 9:30. We went an hour and 15 minutes on some NFL draft talk, and that's what we do each week. We gather around, we chatter, we discuss top prospects and marquee matchups. I can't believe there's only 2 weeks of the regular season left, but we'll be back doing the college football playoff breakdowns. We'll preview the bowl games. We'll be keeping tabs on who's in, who's out. Of course, over at allaccessfootball.com, I mean, the content just keeps on flowing. We posted the NFL Draft headquarters is live. Over 1,000 prospects. We got our big board rankings, top overall hot 100. We've got our top 50 draft eligible prospects by position. I've been updating the big board this morning leading up to the show. We've also got team by team prospect watches for every Power 4 conference. So if you go over to the 2026 menu bar, click on the rankings, you can find any P4 program. We've listed the top ranked prospects for every school. Verified measurements, projections, scouting reports. We've gathered intel from our campus visits, talking to the coaches, gathering all the background and personal and character and medical. We've got it all consolidated and condensed. And this is our 24th year of doing this over at NFL Draft Bible since 2002. You can see I got the gray hairs to prove it, but I don't say this because I'm trying to brag about us. I say this because I believe it. Like nobody is covering the NFL draft like NFL Draft Bible. You cannot find anywhere that I'm aware of. And if there is a destination, I want you to drop it in the chat room and educate me because I want to know where you can find more NFL draft content. Enlighten me. Nobody is turning it out. And our scouting department, Dom Ambrose, Lauren Davidoff, Jarrett Regal, Will Donahue, Ryan Paglia. I mean, they're as good as anyone in the business. So I promise you, if you subscribe, you'll be satisfied. And that's a money back guarantee. If you don't like it, let me know. I'll refund you. But it's the best bargain in town right now. All Access Football Annual. You get the 2026 Draft Bible, over 500 in-depth scouting reports, plus for a limited time offer, you see them in the back there, value picks inside the 2016 NFL draft. So the 10-year anniversary, our good friend Neil Stratton did over 100 interviews with front office personnel to bring it inside the war room and make you understand the thought process, the logic, the behind the scenes of what goes into making NFL draft selections. So we've got so much great content. I just spoke to my guy, Brian Baldinger. Of course, he jumps on board once the NFL season is over. He jumps on board with our draft coverage. He'll be on location with me at some of the All-Star games. We'll be out in Indianapolis for the Combine. In fact, if you go over to SMWW, we also have the meet and greet down there in Mobile for Veets. Baldy will be there with me. We'll be doing the film room breakdown, breaking down the Senior Bowl practice footage. If you want to get involved with that, go over to smww.com, click on the events tab for the Senior Bowl. I'll be spearheading that. I'll also be one of the guest MCs for the SMWW Football Career Conference, which I'm really excited about because I've been a guest speaker on the panel for about the last 10 years. I'll actually be moderating some of the dialogues and conversations that we'll be having at what I consider to be the largest networking event of the year. So, hey, we appreciate all the love and support. And I know I'm shortchanging some of the content over on the website. There's so much there. There's so much to get to. I mentioned the mid-major and small school prospect tracker. We got the East-West Shrine Bowl tracker. 24 invitations have already been officially confirmed. So it's a can't stop, won't stop situation. Like I said, we're 160 days away from the 2026 NFL draft. Destination Pittsburgh. And nobody is going to be breaking it down, chopping it up, and previewing and preparing you for the 2026 NFL draft like myself and my staff and the All Access Football platform. So once again, if you're here and you like the program, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll come back and do this again next Saturday, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, each and every week. Until then, keep it locked over on the website. We've got the Scout Notebook coming out on Monday. We're going to shine the spotlight on some more of the East-West Shrine Bowl player invites. We'll have in-depth scouting reports on those guys. Tuesday, you might just see a new mock draft. Wednesday, we're going to have the world-famous All-Access Football Report read by 50,000 subscribers from over 70 countries around the world. And we are used and well-respected by all 32 NFL teams. And then, of course, Friday is the Draft Insider, which I just posted yesterday. If you missed any of our show today, that's a great way to get caught up with some of the marquee matchups for the games today. With that being said, we're about an hour and 15 minutes away from Saturday kickoff. Enjoy all the action, enjoy all the prospects, enjoy all the games, all the outcomes, and may the force be with you on this very, very beautiful Saturday. For Russ Lande, my co-host, and Ric Serritella, and the All Access Football Familia, thanks for tuning in and watching. We'll see you Saturday.